Chapter 11 Infected with Anger. Lunar date 3.1625.4.21. 4 hours and 59 minutes after dayrise. Slamming his fist down on the armrest of his chair, Daniel yelled out in frustration at Emilyn and Joseph as they lost their first game of the day. The simulation of his ship disappeared, and he was back in the Shadow Gryphons solar deck with his two friends. "What was that?" Daniel's voice was filled with frustration. "We just lost a game to the Dancing Baboons. They are the 10th ranked team. We are number 3. We shouldn't be losing to them." The day of the prep tournament had finally arrived. The tournament was used as a reseeding event for the World Championship. Of the top 12 teams, any one of them could win the tournament and increase their chances with a better placement at the championship. About 100 people, including his younger brother Tallon and his class, gathered in one of the rooms in the Dominika Baldwin Center at the Artanikst Academy to watch the tournament. Many others were watching online via the hub. All matches from the first round were played simultaneously in other rooms in the center, while the rest of the games will be played on the main stage. Due to the various recording devices floating around, it was likely Tallon saw Daniel's outburst. "Oh well, it's not a big deal." "It's only a game," Seth stated. "We still lead the series, we win the next one, and we'll be on to the next match. We obliterated them in our first destruction match. I can't see this one being any different." "Well, let's make sure it isn't," Daniel shot back. "Is everything alright, Daniel?" Emilyn asked with concern, looking at him. "Everything is fine." He didn't look back at her. He was lying. Everything was not fine. Over the past 2 weeks, he noticed himself acting differently. His body felt like it was on fire with anger all the time, and his temper was short. He was combative in situations he didn't need to be. "As long as we all do what we're supposed to do in this next match." "What does that mean?" Emmy pushed. "Last match, you left our flank a little too exposed when guarding the convoy," Daniel pointed out harshly. "It's why we lost." "It is, was it?" Emilyn challenged him, her skin starting to match the color of her pink hair. "I seem to recall you brought your ship out of formation chasing an enemy, and you were ambushed and destroyed. That is why I left our flank exposed, because I need to cover the area you left unprotected with your little stunt." In the past, Daniel would have realized his mistake and apologized. Currently, he didn't care. "I took a risk. I thought it might have worked. It didn't." "No," Emmy shot back. "You were focusing on your personal stats. Don't think we hadn't noticed." Daniel was hoping they hadn't. Every tournament had a special reward for having the best overall stats. Normally, this was never a focus of his, but the prize was 5,000 prestige. He wanted it. He needed it. "I was trying to win us the game and the series." "We do that as a team," Seth said pointedly. "Not alone." "Whatever," Daniel waved his hand. "Let's just get ready for the next game." Emilyn and Joseph readied up and kept their words to themselves. "We cannot afford to lose at this tournament. It may only be one game, but if we get complacent, we could find ourselves at a lower ranking going into the World Championship. One series loss, and we're done at this tournament. I won't let that happen." Daniel's Nexus beeped. Nolan Actor, leader of the Red Eagles, posted a message on the hub stating how Daniel's team looked nervous. The post was garnering a lot of likes and comments. He wrote a quick comment before returning his focus to his bridge of the Dark Fang. It said, "See you in the finals where I will shut you up for good." The destruction match began in the colorful cloud of a nebula. Their objective was to be the first team to reach 25 kills. Like Seth mentioned earlier, they won their first match by a landslide. The score was 25-11. Daniel ordered his battlecruiser ahead with full speed. Though slower in her dreadnought, Emily did the same. Some solar Faceoff teams used different ships for different matches, while others, like the Shadow Gryphons, used the same ship for every mode. Most thought the dreadnought as a defense first ship was useless in destruction. They were wrong. With the perfect strategy, the dreadnought could be used to exploit enemy weaknesses and win matches with ease. "Emmy," Daniel clicked on his Nexus, "fly ahead and provide protection. I'll destroy anyone who comes near us, and then Seth can clean up any stragglers." He received only silence as a reply. "Emilyn?" "Sorry," she said, though her tone did not imply she was actually apologetic. "I have another plan." "What? No, we need to stick with what works," Daniel pleaded. "We try something different and we might lose." "We won't lose." Emmy replied with determination, and the channel went dead. Emilyn! Emilyn! Seth, are you there? Panic rose in Daniel's voice. Yup. Do you know what she is doing? Daniel was exasperated. No idea. However, I suggest we let her do her own thing and she might start targeting us. Seth snickered. Daniel studied the radar. Emilyn was taking her ship into the midst of the enemy's 3 ships. She's being foolish. She will be destroyed. Not if we can help her, Seth mentioned calmly. This isn't the game plan, Daniel argued. She's meant to be our shield while we destroy the enemy targets. Emilyn's voice came back over the Nexus. Oh, but when you go off the game plan, it's perfectly fine? Listen, I'm drawing all their fire. Stop talking and destroy them while they are distracted. I am the team captain. You should have checked with me first. I am so sorry. Next time, do you want me to grovel and beg too? Emmy's sarcasm was as thick as molasses. Daniel bit his tongue. We'll talk about this later. Fine with me. Joseph and Daniel were able to destroy the 3 enemy ships before their opponents could realign their efforts against either of them. Emilyn continued with her risky plays and even started to amass an impressive amount of kills on her own. But at the end of the match, they won 25-12, with Emilyn leading the team with 10 destructions. Daniel sighed with relief. Frustration and anger dissipated after the assurance of their win. Crew, it has been an honor to serve with you. I will see you in our next match. Those who supported the team in the forum cheered for the Shadow Gryphons as they emerged from the solar deck. Tallon and some of his friends ran up to them yelling loudly, Great win, bro! That was an intense matchup! I was a tad worried there for a few minutes. He ruffled his younger brother's hair. We won. That's all that matters. Hey, we're gonna go prepare for our next matchup. It will be a tough one. We can chat after, okay? Sure. Love you, Daniel. Love you too, Tallon. A reply from Nolan was waiting for him on the hub when he returned to their team's prep room. The message read, Keep dreaming. Daniel rolled his eyes and took a seat in one of the room's chairs. The rest of the first round will be over soon. We'll probably be facing the Oni Knights. They will be a formidable opponent. Daniel resisted the urge to ask Candy to show him the other matches still underway. In the past, they'd used this time to study their opponents. Presently, Daniel only wanted to try and relax his mind. Good win, everyone, Seth said. I knew we'd pull it out. Not gonna lie, Daniel began. I was concerned when Emmy went off on her own. I'm glad we won, but that could have backfired. Emilyn became defensive. What, you don't trust me? Daniel stood up. What exactly is your problem? You've been argumentative all day. Not all day. Only since you started acting all high and mighty after we lost 1 game. 1 game, Daniel! She sighed and looked him straight in his eyes with concern. You haven't been yourself lately. You've been more angry and frustrated. Last week you yelled at Seth because he accidentally knocked something over in the night and woke you up. That isn't like you. Daniel turned to Seth, slightly annoyed. You told her that? Yeah, it was out of character for you. I was wondering if she noticed anything herself. And you didn't think to come talk to me? He was hurt by this realization. In the past, they'd have talked. I thought we talked about things with each other when something bugged us. We do, Daniel, Emilyn pointed out. You haven't talked to either of us since everything happened with Abigale. She paused. We think that is why you've been so angry and mad. Don't talk to me about Abigale, he spat. We have our final project next week. Once that is over and done, I can forget all about her. You're obviously upset about what went down, Emilyn said, and we get it. But you have to talk about it instead of holding it all in. At least with us. I said I don't want to talk about Abigale, his voice raised. We need to focus on our next match and get the win. Nothing else matters today. Daniel returned to his seat. He knew Emilyn was correct, but he didn't want to admit she was right. His anger had become his anchor, and he didn't want to let go of that. This world seems to credit those who take advantage of others and treat them like crap. Everyone is looking out for themselves. Maybe this time I start doing the same. What has being honorable ever got me? Nothing. Nothing except a broken heart. He didn't mean the words he was thinking. It was his anger talking. At least, that is what he led himself to believe. Your attitude always matters, Emmy reminded him softly. You haven't been speaking with tenderness to either of us, and you haven't been honoring us either." Instantly, he was brought back to one of the last things Abigale said to him. "Today you revealed your true colors, Daniel, and you aren't honorable. Not even close." He clenched his fist, finding the urge to grab his nearby thermos of water and chuck it across the room. "Listen, if I wanted a lecture about following Arnion, I'd go to my parents. I don't point out all your faults and judge you." "We aren't judging you, Daniel," Emilyn growled. "We're trying to be your friends." Daniel exhaled a sigh. Emmy and Seth had always been there for him. He couldn't let his anger be taken out on them. They weren't the focus anyways. And if the conversation keeps going this way, then we'll not be ready to compete in our next match, and we have to win. He apologized to lessen the tension. "You're right. I'm sorry for being such a coda. I'm worked up about everything with Abigale. The stress of this tournament also has me on edge." "We can see that," Seth smiled. "Why are you so worked up? Usually you are the one who is calm in situations like this. You always know exactly what to say. I typically get worked up, and Seth, well, he's Seth. He just kind of goes along with the flow." "I can get worked up if I want to," Seth chimed in. "Really?" Emmy asked in disbelief. "Of course," Seth shrugged. "I just choose not to most of the time." "I wish I could choose not to right now." Daniel leaned forward and placed his hands against his head. "I don't know why I'm allowing my anger to control me right now. I wake up angry. I'm angry all day. I go to sleep angry. I know I shouldn't be angry or feel this way. It's like I've been infected with anger and there isn't a cure available. I even yelled at one of my professors in frustration the other day because they asked me how my work was coming along. I'd barely written 2 words, and so I was mad I couldn't focus." "Which professor?" "Professor Hingley," Daniel answered Seth. "Oh boy," Emilyn whistled. "I doubt he handled that very well." "He didn't. I have to write a second 2,000-word essay about another invention from the Age of Progress due the same day as my original essay. My first one was on the creation of solar Faceoff. I'll probably use my leftover research and write my second one about the solar deck. I have to do that after the tournament, as they're both due on the 23rd. Daniel found it hard to believe the semester was almost over. Only 5 days of class remained. In unison, their nexi indicated the first round of the prep tournament was finished. Daniel shifted the holographic display from his personal device to the one sitting in the middle of the room. They saw the current standings and who they were facing in the next round. In the first round, it was the Red Eagles versus the Llama Riders, the Magical Unicorns versus the Armored Golems, the Shadow Gryphons versus the Dancing Baboons, the Oni Knights versus the Gugway Hunters, the Crimson Grizzlies versus the Raging Leviathans, and the Behu Princesses versus the Mystical Kitsunes. Moving on to the second round, it was the Red Eagles versus the Raging Leviathans, the Magical Unicorns versus the Mystical Kitsunes, and the Shadow Gryphons versus the Oni Knights. I figured it would be the Oni Knights," Daniel commented. "We beat them the last time we played, though it did go down to the wire." Seth leaned forward and highlighted the Oni Knights. "Interesting." "What?" both Emmy and Daniel asked. "Well, usually the Oni Knights deploy the same strategy as us, using the same ships for every map. Except they all use battle cruisers. However, in their matchup against the Gugway Hunters, weird name by the way, since you can't actually hunt Gugway anymore. Not that you should hunt them anyways, they were vile Seth! Emmy called out. "You're getting distracted." "Right, dear, sorry. Anyways, they used different ships for each map in their previous matchup." Daniel pondered the new information. "Now that we know, we can prepare for it. Doesn't really affect our strategy and destruction too much, but it will mean we should switch up some things for extraction and protection." "According to the schedule, our match is the final one to be played in the second round," Seth said, still flipping through different information on the display. "Our match will be at 8 hours after dayrise." Daniel hummed. We should watch the first 2 matches and watch for weaknesses to exploit in our opponents." Emilyn and Seth both agreed with Daniel's suggestion. "First, we should grab something to eat." Seth placed his hands on his stomach. "I don't want to play another game on an empty stomach." Daniel brought up the current time on his Nexus. "The first match starts at 6 hours after dayrise. We have about 30 minutes. Do we want to order some food from the fabricator or try out one of the food vendors? Also, do you mind if I invite Tallon to join us? I'm sure he'd love it. Food vendors? Definitely. And yes, of course, Tallon is welcome. Emilyn was already heading towards the door. You two slowpokes coming or what? The three teenagers left their room, still dressed in their solar face-off uniforms. They weighed their food options from the vendors attending the event. Tallon joined them with one of the largest smiles on his face. He loved being included with his brother and his friends. Daniel ordered some chicken fingers, a baked potato, and a small bowl of noodles with peppermint tea to drink. Joseph found a tower of a burger with 3 patties and all the works with some onion rings and a bottle of Luntama pop. Emilyn asked for a bowl of steak alfredo and a plate of matzo sticks along with some water and a cup of coffee. Tallon's plate included a grilled cheese, cucumbers, fries, and a bowl of pudding along with a glass of water. They found some seats with about 10 minutes to spare before the second round began. Other teams and fans were crowding around to watch the match between the Red Eagles and the Raging Leviathans. I wonder if the Leviathan's captain will yell at Nolan if they lose, Seth managed to say between bites of his gigantic burger. Daniel chuckled as he recalled the Leviathans being angry at him for the strategy he used against them at the beginning of the school year. I don't know Nick that well. I do know he is never happy when they lose. I doubt he'll do anything here with the Nexi floating around, capturing every moment of the event. He doesn't want to embarrass himself or his team. Still, Seth's mouth was full as he talked, it might be funny to see. The matches were being watched on a large holographic display projected above the stage in the center of the room. The solar decks for the teams were located in the back right, while everyone else sat in chairs or tables circling the stage. At the moment, the display was showing highlights from the earlier matches in the current rankings. In 12th were the Llama Riders, in 11th the Armored Golems, in 10th the Dancing Baboons, in 9th the Gugway Hunters, in 8th the Crimson Grizzlies, and in 7th the Behu Princesses. The final 6 positions would be determined by these last few matches. Entering into the tournament, their team was sitting in 3rd overall. Daniel's goal was to stay in 3rd or move up to 2nd or 1st. Even 4th was acceptable, as it still put them in top 4 going into the World Championship, which gave them a seeding advantage. 5th or 6th, however, was not an option in his mind. Whoever emerged from the second round with the best record was awarded a ticket to the final match of the tournament. The ranking of those who lost was determined by record as well. Of the 6 remaining teams, the records were Red Eagles 3-0, Magical Unicorns 3-1, Shadow Gryphons 3-1, Oni Knights 3-1, Mystical Kitsunes 3-2, and the Raging Leviathans 3-2. Daniel watched intently as Nolan Actor's Red Eagles obliterated the Raging Leviathans in the first game, 25-8. Everyone anticipated another sweep from Marosia's best team in their age group. The whole arena was flabbergasted when the Raging Leviathans won the next 2 games. One more win, and the Red Eagles would be eliminated. The video feed focused on Nolan Actor. He was the image of tranquility. His demeanor displayed an air of confidence and trust in his team's ability to win. Daniel tried to think of the last time the Red Eagles had their backs against the wall. It was when we beat them 3 years ago. Coming out soaring, the Red Eagles put any doubts to rest with a 25-6 victory in the next destruction map. The announcers were going wild as they narrated the play-by-play. On the final map, with a vengeance, the Red Eagles won all 3 rounds to emerge victorious. Nolan didn't shout or yell. He stood up from his chair and held out his hands with a devilish grin. The standings were updated. Red Eagles 6-2, Magical Unicorns 3-1, Shadow Gryphons 3-1, Oni Knights 3-2, Mystical Kitsunes 3-2, and the Raging Leviathans 5-5. The second match was also entertaining. The Magical Unicorns won the first 2 maps before the Mystical Kitsunes responded with 2 straight wins of their own. The final game of protection came down to the 5th and final round to determine the winner. With a nail-biting finale, the Magical Unicorns pulled off the victory and secured their spot in the next round. Tallon hugged him tightly. You've got this, bro. I know you do. Thanks, Tallon. I will do my best to make you proud. Tallon's response shocked Daniel. I'm always proud of you, no matter what, Daniel. And then he ran off to join his friends. Daniel took his brother's comment to heart and walked to the solar deck to prepare for their match. Once there, he saw the revised standings. Red Eagles 6-2, Magical Unicorns 6-3, Shadow Gryphons 3-1, Oni Knights 3-2, Mystical Kitsunes 5-5, and the Raging Leviathans 5-5. If we sweep the Oni Knights, we can get a bye to the final match. I believe we can do it, Daniel told Emilyn and Joseph via his Nexus. They were all on the bridge of their ships awaiting the beginning of their series. Would be nice to see Nolan knocked out, a first for once, Emilyn said with a smile. I thought for sure we were going to see an upset from the Raging Leviathans. So did I. Seems like the Knights are going 2 destroyers and 1 battlecruiser for this match, Seth noted. Full offense seems to be their strat. Emmy, do you mind flying defense to start off? If we can hold off their initial attack, I think we can gain the upper hand and win. Yep, I was thinking the same. Let's do this, Daniel said confidently. The 3 friends did hold off the initial attack and started pulling away with a decent lead of 10-4. Seeing an opening, Daniel decided to take a risk and ordered his ship to slip behind the enemy lines. His maneuver was noticed and the 2 destroyers started picking his ship apart. He requested assistance, but neither Emmy or Seth were able to arrive in time. The momentum shifted, and they lost the match by a score of 25-21. Daniel held in his bubbling anger. They had lost 1 game, but it wasn't the end of their tournament. All they needed to do was win the series, and then they were assured a top 3 finish. They lost their 2nd game and found themselves in a hole. Still, Daniel kept his anger and frustration inside. He could feel the fire burning through his veins and skin, but he had to remain focused. The 3rd game was Extraction, his favorite. First, they were defending the convoy through the asteroid field. With some solid teamwork and comms, they managed to protect 32 ships. We just need to destroy 19, and we can move on to the next game. The Oni Knights established a strong defense. Halfway through, the Gryphons had only managed to destroy 8 ships. Alright, I'm going to try a lunar drive jump and see if I can destroy some ships before they start firing at me. When I do that, you 2 start tearing apart that convoy, Daniel instructed. Daniel, are you sure that is wise? Emmy questioned. We are in an asteroid field. One wrong calculation and you could destroy yourself. I will be careful. Be ready. Helm, course set? Yes, sir. Let's do this. The helm officer used the calculations Daniel sent to them, and the Dark Fang entered into lunar drive. 2 seconds later, they exited with an asteroid crashing into their aft engines. Explosions erupted all around Daniel. Status! He shouted. Shields are down to 42% and our engines are offline, Security replied. And weapons? Security studied his display. Torpedo banks are still active and we have 56 efficiency from weapons. Emmy, Seth, I still have weapons. I'm going to fire at the convoy. Get ready to move in. But Daniel, they aren't moving to intercept you. Another asteroid is heading your way. If we move in, we die. Tactical, is Emmy right? Yes, sir, she replied. The asteroid will hit us in less than 2 minutes. Security, how many convoy ships can we take out in that time? 5, maybe 6 if we are lucky. The game clock showed less than 3 minutes. They weren't going to be able to destroy enough in time unless Emilyn and Seth moved in. You both need to move in and focus all efforts on the convoy. The defense is too strong. We won't make a dent, Emmy informed him. I didn't ask for excuses, he snapped. The barriers holding back his anger and frustration were starting to crack. We can't lose this match. Now shut up and do what needs to be done. Daniel gritted his teeth. Security, focus all power on the nearest convoy ships and start firing. Security nodded and started to get to work. They were able to destroy more ships than they originally predicted. With 5 seconds left before the asteroid impact, there were up to 17 ships destroyed. After the 10-second respawn, Daniel flew his ship back towards the fray. He initiated a call to the other 2 ships. We need 2 more convoy ships destroyed and we have 30 seconds left. Anyone have any clear shots? There was silence for a response. Emmy? Seth? Nothing. Tactical, is there something wrong with communication? No, sir. Something wrong with their ships? He was frantic. Negative. Then why aren't they responding? Frustration set in. I don't know, sir. Sensors indicate both ships are sitting still and not firing. What? Daniel was confused and angry. The time ticked down and the match ended with the Oni Knights destroying 18 ships and the Shield Gryphons destroying only 17. Daniel disconnected from his bridge without saying a word. Where were you guys? Daniel exclaimed with his hands raised up in the air. Emilyn pointed her finger right into Daniel's chest. I get it. You are upset and hurt about what happened with Abigale. But don't ever tell me to shut up again, she shouted, tears forming in her eyes. Is that why you didn't attack? We could have won the game, and now we're out of the tournament. And not just that, we are now ranked 6th going into the World Championship because we didn't win a single game. He shook his head in disbelief. Thanks a lot. You really put your emotions before the team. I put my emotions before the team? Are you even listening to yourself speak? You've been a real coda to us all day. I thought maybe we had made some headway back in the room. Turns out I was wrong. She started walking towards the door. Figure out your crap, Daniel, but leave Seth and I out until you're ready to take responsibility for your actions. He spoke the words before thinking them through. If you walk out that door, you're off the team. Joseph joined Emilyn by the door. No. It was the most serious he'd ever heard his friend speak. You may be the team captain, but removal from the team has to be agreed by a majority. We made that rule when we first formed the team. Seth's eyes locked onto Daniel's. And right now, Emmitt and I think you need to take time away. You're kicking me off the team? He couldn't believe what he was hearing. Where would you be without me? Not here, that's for sure. And that attitude is why you are no longer on the team. Don't talk to us until you are ready to apologize. Emilyn and Joseph left the room without looking back. The door slammed behind them. Fine! You'll be begging me to come back. With a feral scream, Daniel removed his nexus from his wrist and hurled it at the wall with all of his strength. Ah, Fazic! It shattered into pieces. A recording nexus caught it all on camera. Anger and embarrassment flooded his emotions now that everyone witnessed his breakdown. He stormed out of the solar deck. Even more nexi were flying around, capturing his emotions on screen. He covered his face with his hand. He didn't want anyone to see him. Great, Daniel mumbled under his breath. Nolan Actor and his 2 teammates and a girl walked up to him. If memory served him right, the girl was Nolan's girlfriend. Ooh, Daniel. Not looking good, man. 6th place? Ugh. Good luck at the World Championship. You're gonna need it if your team plays that bad. The fire inside of Daniel enraged his entire body. He clenched his fists and fought back the tears. He wanted to lash out and attack Nolan. He wanted to punch him over and over until his body rid itself of all the energy pent up inside. He wanted to scream at Abigale for using him. He wanted to yell at Emmy and Seth for abandoning him. He wanted to shout at Arnion for allowing all of this to happen to him. Instead, he breathed out slowly and released the tension from his body. By doing so, something snapped inside of him. He surrendered to his darkness as he walked towards Nolan and met his gaze. You know, I never noticed before that your prestige is lower than mine even after all the tournaments you've won. They don't give much for tournaments after all. Not unless you win the championship. It must really grate you that I have a higher prestige than you. And since prestige is really all that matters, Daniel gently reached out, took the girl's hand in his and pulled her close to him. She smelled like wild cherries. She didn't resist when he leaned in to kiss her. Daniel knew everyone, including his brother, and likely his parents were watching via the aether. He didn't care. He wanted to make a statement to Nolan that he wasn't afraid of him. Pulling away, Daniel smirked. Whenever you get tired of him and you want someone with a bit higher prestige, come find me. She smiled with adventure in her eyes. Without another word, Daniel walked away. He half expected Nolan to chase after him. Apparently, his actions had left the Red Eagle's captain frozen and dumbfounded. And not only Nolan, but everyone else who witnessed Daniel's lack of discretion. Thank you for listening to my book Palmara, A Dying Breed. I'd love to hear your feedback. What do you like? What do you think needs some work? What are you most interested to see happen? What questions do you have? At the end of every chapter, I'll have these slides that show how time works in Palmara, plus the different sayings and terms to help you engage with the world. As well, the characters who appear in each chapter will be found in the video description. Be sure to check it out. And if you're enjoying this and enjoy other stories, please make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. You can always join the Discord with the link in the description as well. Until next time, Hinei Akmatov, which means how pleasant it is for humanity to dwell in harmony with one another. Take care.